Most people think improvement happens when something feels smooth, but the moments that actually build skill feel slow, frustrating, and slightly out of control. In the talent code, Daniel Coyle points to something most people overlook. Something subtle begins to go wrong here. When something feels smooth, familiar, and easy to repeat, it creates a sense of progress. You feel like you are getting better. You feel like you are reinforcing something useful. But nothing is actually changing. And most people never realize this is happening. Repetition without strain becomes maintenance, not growth, not development. It is the mind staying within patterns it already knows. Daniel Coyle writes, practice is about paying attention. Attention fades the moment something becomes automatic, which means something important is already slipping. So the tension begins here. The more comfortable your practice feels, the less it is likely doing for you. Now the pattern starts to reveal itself. The moments most people try to avoid are the only moments where improvement begins. The hesitation, the mistake, the slight loss of control. At first, these feel like signs that something is wrong. That interpretation is the mistake. You miss a note. You stumble over a sentence. You pause longer than expected. The instinct is immediate. Fix it. Smooth it. Move past it quickly. But something critical is missed here. Those moments are not interruptions. They are signals. Signals that the brain has reached the edge of what it currently knows. And that edge is where skill is built. Not in the way most people assume. Coyle captures it simply. Struggle is not optional. It's neurological. When something feels slightly beyond your control, your brain begins to respond differently. It does not repeat. It adapts. Beneath that adaptation, something physical begins to form. Not metaphorical, not conceptual. Something biological. And at this point, it becomes impossible to ignore. Inside the brain, every skill is built through circuits. Those circuits are wrapped in a substance called myelin. Myelin acts like insulation. It strengthens the signal. It makes actions faster, more precise, more reliable. But here is the part most people never see. Myelin does not grow during smooth repetition. It grows when the signal struggles, which reshapes what progress actually looks like. When the movement is slightly off, when the timing is imperfect, when correction is required. Each mistake sends a clearer instruction. Each correction reinforces the pathway. Coyle writes, skill is insulation that wraps neural circuits. Here, the illusion of talent begins to dissolve. What looks like natural ability is often the result of thousands of these small, imperfect corrections. Invisible, accumulated, built slowly over time. This is why it's so easy to misunderstand. When someone performs effortlessly, what you are seeing is not ease. You are seeing the result of past struggle that has been stabilized. Something else begins to happen at this stage. Repetition, when done in this state of deep engagement, does not just build skill. It begins to shape identity. You stop thinking about the movement. You become the movement. The pianist no longer thinks about each note. The speaker no longer thinks about each word. The behavior becomes automatic. With enough repetition, it begins to feel natural, as if it was always there. But it wasn't. It was built, just not in a way that was visible. Coyle writes, we are what we repeatedly do. Here, the earlier illusion returns in a more subtle form. Once something feels natural, we begin to believe it always was. We confuse familiarity with origin. This is why talent appears mysterious, not because it is rare, but because its construction is hidden. Even with this understanding, something still holds people back, not because they lack discipline. The process itself feels uncomfortable, slow, uncertain, exposing. There is no immediate reward in struggling through something poorly. There is no visible progress in repeating a mistake and correcting it. This creates resistance. Not loud, not obvious, a quiet, persistent resistance. We return to what feels good, what feels smooth, what confirms our current ability. It protects identity. It allows us to feel competent, but it also locks us in place. Most people never question why. This is where the shift happens. The very behavior that feels productive is often what prevents change. Coyle writes, deep practice is built on a paradox. Struggling in certain targeted ways makes you smarter. Targeted struggle, not random effort, not endless repetition. Precise engagement with what you cannot yet do. This requires a shift from performance to construction. Most people approach practice as performance. They repeat what they can already do and try to make it cleaner, faster, smoother. Construction works differently. The focus moves to the weakest point, the slowest movement, the part that breaks under pressure. Instead of avoiding it, it stays there, repeats it, studies it, rebuilds it. Slowly, time begins to feel different here. Progress is no longer measured by how something looks. It is measured by what is changing beneath the surface, even when nothing looks different yet. This change is often invisible, at least at first. But over time, something shifts, and it happens quietly. The same action that once felt unstable begins to feel controlled. The hesitation disappears. The correction becomes unnecessary. What was once effort becomes instinct, not because it was always there, but because it was built there. Everything begins to reorient. The question changes. It is no longer, do I have talent? It becomes, am I practicing in a way that builds it? This brings us back to the beginning, to that quiet assumption that smooth equals progress. Now it looks different. Smoothness is not the cause of improvement. It only appears at the end of it. It is the result of past struggle. And if you chase the result, you avoid the process that creates it. So the next time something feels slow, slightly frustrating, just beyond your control, because that is not where skill breaks. That is where it begins. And if this way of thinking resonates, you may wish to continue exploring these ideas here.